What would happen if you could stop time? If you ask someone what they'd do if you could stop time, you'd probably get a number of unsettling answers, depending on how perverted the person actually is. But this question may be completely irrelevant, because if you could prevent the inevitable tide of seconds, minutes, hours, and days from washing over you, it's likely you may not be able to do much of anything at all, as we're about to find out as we investigate what would happen if you could stop time. Number 4. You can't see. If we are to suspend belief and imagine that you could stop time, then we need to pull some ground rules out of our buttocks to make it work. The first problem we'd encounter in a world without time is the problem of light. If time stops, every photon would be suspended, rendering you unable to see until you moved forwards. This would happen with air as well. You'd have to run around catching air molecules in your mouth, forcing them down into your lungs with some kind of wand, since those little fellas ain't capable of moving. To get past this, we must assume that you exist in a bubble which is unaffected by the ceasing of time. We need to accept this because space and time are inextricably linked via the concept of space-time. If each point in space is also a moment in time, the ending of time means you and everything around you cannot move. And that's going to make the rest of eternity seem pretty darn boring once you flip the switch on your time-stopping device. Looking forward to some zany hijinks as you run around putting frozen humans into funny positions? Ain't happening, bub. Everyone and everything would be stuck still in a world without time. And even inside a bubble immune to the lack of time, your bubble itself may find it impossible to move also. By changing positions, you'd require an interaction with physical objects such as oxygen and nitrogen molecules in the air. If you want to move, these would have to move too. If they can't, you're stuck where you are. Also, if you somehow miraculously stopped all time and were able to continue moving, this might be the catalyst to start time up again. Your movement and that of anything around you could kick off a chain reaction which causes time to spread back into your reality, like pee in a public pool. But if it doesn't, and you're stuck there, the good news is that both you and the rest of humanity will never know a thing. Number 3. Nobody would know. If you were trapped alongside everyone else inside a time-absent reality, neither you nor anyone else would have any idea what had happened. We know this is true because of what special relativity tells us about time dilation. And we can explain this more easily if we mention our favorite spaceman siblings, Scott and Mark Kelly. Through 2015 and 16, astronaut Scott Kelly orbited the Earth aboard the International Space Station at around 28,200 kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, Mark, his slightly older twin brother, stayed back on Earth. After 1 year of traveling around the world at such speeds, Scott experienced the passage of time as being slower by 5 milliseconds than his brother Mark, meaning that their age gap of 6 seconds increased to 6 seconds and 5 milliseconds. This happens due to the way time warps in a relative way between two objects, depending on how fast one is moving and whether another is in the presence of a gravitational mass. However, when we said that Scott would experience the passage of time as being slower, that wasn't quite true. Obviously, a difference of 5 milliseconds won't be noticeable, but nor would you know if there was a discrepancy of 5 minutes, hours, days, or years either. Time is considered relative to the observer. Therefore, whatever time you experience will flow at a normal rate. If you're in a spaceship somehow going close to the speed of light, time will only be seen to have slowed down once you stop to compare instruments to a relative object which remained stationary while you traveled. Both you and your pals back home would have felt no difference whatsoever. This is what would happen on a planet if time were slowed down or stopped completely. Nobody, not a single human soul, would be aware of what was going on. The only people who knew would be those who were observing. Number 2. You're basically invisible. Or everywhere. In our previous entry, we described how time would slow down if you traveled fast enough. If you could achieve the impossible and move at light speed, you could therefore stop time progressing outside of your ship relative to you. As we've already explained, time wouldn't actually stop for anyone else, but it would seem to have done so once you've slowed down and returned to Earth and compared yourself to a stationary object. But what if you never stopped? What if you came back to Earth and carried on moving at light speed? Let's say Scott Kelly goes into space and travels at slower than light speed for a few years. His brother, Mark, would have a hard time tracking him as he travels at a super fast speed, but he'd nevertheless be able to observe him depending on just how fast he's going. That last part is the kicker, because if Scott travels at light speed, and he did so in proximity to his brother, would Mark even be able to see him? He'd be moving at the speed of light, so he'd either appear invisible or he'd instantaneously be everywhere and everything at once. Imagine that. Your own sibling fills the room ubiquitously with his presence. That's gotta make for a weird family Christmas. Number 1. You might break the universe. If you were able to create a device which stopped time in one part of the universe, it's highly likely that whatever you did would cause the universe to behave in new and bizarre ways. Let's imagine you've enveloped the entire Earth in a bubble of frozen space-time. How would the universe react to this, considering the fact that our planet is currently orbiting the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour? The Sun also drags us through the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour, which itself is moving at 1.3 million miles per hour through our local galactic group. And when we consider our position relative to the cosmic background radiation of the universe, we can calculate that our entire local group of galaxies is shifting through space at around 14 octillion miles per hour. So, if one particular point in space-time just stops dead in the middle of all this, it doesn't move, it doesn't interact, and it refuses to budge no matter what it comes up against, then what happens to everything which surrounds it? Does all matter, space, and time just pile up against the side? If so, then this would create a huge explosion at the very least. At worst, distortions in space-time often cause black holes, within which space-time is also distorted and stopped at the singularity. So, a big blob of zero space-time could result in time being stopped outside of the bubble, or even the reversal of time itself. In truth, we have no idea exactly how this would work, because, as you may have guessed, nobody's ever successfully stopped time. But if we wanted to try, how might we do it? We're going to explore this in our bonus video, How to Stop Time, which you can watch in our Patreon page at patreon.com/strangemysteries. For a $2 a month pledge, which you can cancel at any time, you'll get to watch this and all of our bonus content, which goes deeper and darker into every topic than YouTube allows. If you don't want to donate, then that's bullshit.
We know you wanted more. Strange Mysteries on YouTube and our Patreon bonus videos weren't enough to quench your search for truth, to give you that sense of awe and wonder again, to go past what you thought was the end, to give you the answers you seek, but which only lead to more questions. That's why we just upped the stakes. Chemicals of reality. Reality, consciousness, brains. What else is there? Ask yourself that question. Perhaps that's all there really is, but perhaps everything else is found within a place where these ideas, these things, overlap. Some thing, some place that is undefinable. To many people, altering certain chemicals in their brains produces what they would simply call hallucinations. In fact, what we're going to discuss specifically used to be called the businessman's trip, as one could enjoy it. Come down and put your pants back on in the time it takes to eat lunch. It wasn't taken seriously, well, unless of course you started digging. And some people, including us, did. Already though, to many people, this chemical is special amongst others. Very special. To them it represents something more meaningful and incredible, as if it's the gateway to the next level of consciousness. The ticket to a higher reality barely explored by most humans. It is the entry point to a new reality, visited by only a select few whose minds have become enlightened through the use of this exotic substance. For this reason, it's commonly referred to as the spirit molecule. But is its reputation as a mystical mind opener deserved? Or is it, and everything it represents, just a load of bullshit? We look at, investigate, and dive deeply into nearly all available research regarding this question, from nearly every angle feasible. And in the course of doing so, stumble upon unexplainable patterns, correlations, and neurological evidence for a reality existing beyond this one. Watch this hour-long Strange Mysteries premium video, Chemicals of Reality, as well as many more to come by becoming an elite premium member of our Patreon at patreon.com/strangemysteries.